Is anybody familiar with uncertainty? Anyone not sure what you're not sure of? Do any of you not know what you do not know? And that can make us very nervous. It can also make some of us kind of snarky. And I know that you're going to be really happy to hear from our featured speaker today. Dr. Karen Jacobson asks this question: have you ever found yourself in the middle of a crisis, caught by surprise, without knowing what to do next? Yes, absolutely. Do you wish you had a contingency plan that could have helped you solve the problem calmly and with minimal negative consequences? Do you want to feel more secure in your ability to handle challenging situations in the future? If you answered yes to any of those questions, you'll be very glad you're here. Dr. Karen has over 30 years of leadership and communications expertise, starting from her service as a military commander in the Israeli army, and to today sitting on boards of professional associations as well as running multi-generational businesses. She's also a champion Latin ballroom dancer that will keep you on your toes as she shares with you how to successfully manage your way through crisis in this keynote presentation. Please welcome from the battlefield to the ballroom, and now to our stage, Dr. Karen Jacobson.
What's Easter like for you and your families? How many of you do Easter egg hunts? How many of you have ever been in church surrounded by lilies? And what about those big family dinners where you're just sitting there and eating? Now, I want you to imagine that you're at church praying with all your family around you. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, unexpected, shocking event occurs. What would you do? Well, that was my experience when I was 9 years old on the holiest day for the Jews. See, it was Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. I was at temple. There was not a car in the street. TVs and radio were silent. There was this sacredness in the air. And then something unexpected happened. Out of the blue, a shrieking air raid siren. What would you do? Now, how many of you may have been through a drill, a fire drill? Yeah. My friends, this was not a drill. This was real. This was war. And we had to go back to the bombshells. Now, mind you, I was 9 years old watching all of this. What would you do in that type of a situation? Now, when we look at fire drills, maybe you've had the opportunity to practice. But hopefully, you never had the chance to be in a real-life situation. We were not prepared. Like I said, this was out of the blue. And that is where I learned the first lesson. That in order to be able to move forward, you need to be prepared. And preparedness requires practice and planning. Let's go back to that bombshell. We get home, we get to the bombshell. When I said we're not prepared, luckily we didn't store stuff in the bombshell. But there was nothing there, nothing at all. Just 4 walls, concrete floors, concrete ceilings, and steel doors. And we had, luckily, enough room to fit 26 families. Now, that preparedness requires planning, and that's where the second lesson comes in. See, we have to have the ability to be able to move forward in a way that allows us to have a plan. And when something that caught you off guard, you're going to need to come up with some type of operational plan that might be different than what you thought. which is what we did. Now, how many of you in your business might have operational plans for an emergency? See, when we were caught off guard, that was us years ago. But how many of you remember where you were 3 years ago? How off guard you might have been caught? What was it like? What do you do in a situation where there's crisis and uncertainty and you may not have that plan? How do you take care of your family, of your business, of your friends? So we said there has to be preparedness and there has to be an optional plan. And in order to create that optional plan, you actually have to sit down and cultivate it. How many of you might have plans for your business where you know that in a case of crisis, you can come up with something different? Years ago, when I had my chiropractic practice, I remember walking into the office to about half a foot of water. I look up, tiles from the ceiling are all over the floor. And my office manager, Angela, is standing there freaking out. Oh my God, Dr. J, what are we gonna do? The patients are gonna be here in half an hour. The floor looks terrible. There's water everywhere. What are we gonna do about the patients? I looked at her and I put my hands on her shoulders and I said, Angela, take a deep breath. It's gonna be okay. Now, let's go get some towels and a mop because we've got patients coming in 30 minutes. Angela looks at me and she's like, how on earth can you be this calm? That's because that was the next lesson. See, in order to create that operational plan, you need to stay calm and centered. Someone had to do it. And since I had that operational plan and came up with something, that had to be me. Now, as a leader, think about your businesses when some crisis comes up. Are you calm and centered? How do you handle things? See, the same way Angela handled the challenge, everyone has different responses and different behaviors at times of crisis and turmoil. Some of them are going to be more responsive. Some of them are going to be more reactive. There are 4 types of behavior that you'll find how people respond or react in crisis. You'll have the dramatic, you'll have the denier, you've got the observer, and you've got the action taker. 2 of them are more responsive. 2 of them are more reactive. Let's start first with the dramatic. Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Filled with emotion, reactive, a lot of movement. Sometimes they're going to be those that either panic, faint, hyperventilate. You'll see that fight or flight reaction coming through. They're the ones that we want to make sure we help calm down. The next one is going to be the denier. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. They're the ones that are going to look at the situation with fear and disbelief, not willing to accept the reality that is in front of them. Again, responding from emotion. Then you've got the observer. What is going on here? What is really happening? I need to understand this. See, they're detached from their emotions, and they sometimes feel helpless, but they're not going to express it. They go into thinking mode, into response mode. And last and not least, you'll have that action taker. The action taker is the one that's going to look around, going to assess the situation, and say, okay, people, this is happening. Let's go change it and take action. Now, mind you, there is no right or wrong. They're just behaviors. But as leaders, if you want to make sure that you're able to create change within your organization at a time of crisis or turmoil, what do you think you would embrace? Being able to center yourself, control your, manage your emotions is what's going to make a difference. Now, back to that shelter. Those were some critical moments. And one of the neighbors broke the silence by turning on a radio. Within minutes, we heard the call signs, bringing out all of the military units, both regular and reserve, to the front lines. Within hours, we were able to see outside and watch the convoys heading up towards the border, while at the same time, there were trucks bringing in women and children that were evacuated from the north, bringing them to safety. When you look at those times and you wonder, how is it that they were able to do that so quickly? That's where that preparedness came in. But furthermore, the country band around. When you're looking at leaders that are calm and centered, that have prepared enough, that have an operational plan in advance, they are able to overcome crisis, challenge, and turmoil, support their team, build collaboration, and overcome challenges together. Ultimately, we did that, and the war was won. When you look at your businesses, will you take the same actions? Thank you.